Okay, let's have a look at this programming exam solution tutorial. We're looking at one of the first programming extensions, CheckValidMove, and doing that against the Monster VB version of the Monster code. And we're looking at the OOP code in particular. So let's just jump in. First of all, so first extension, CheckValidMove. You can currently move off the board. Validate the move so you can't. So let's have a look at the Monster VB code. Got the structure version, structured programming version, subroutines, functions, etc. And we have the OOP version just here. So got our overarching module and main function here, a main subroutine, and then classes. So this is our object-oriented programming paradigm. So collapse to definitions. So number of classes, game class, grid, and then we have these classes that inherit from the item base class. Okay, and we have our item class, which is essentially a position in a two-dimensional grid with number of cells east, number of cells south in a two-dimensional grid. Okay, let's just have let's run the game, see what the problem is. So run the OOP version, that's what we're looking at currently. Start a new game. I can move east, let's say. So I move to the right one. Now if I try north, it's a valid move. Sorry, it's a valid keystroke, but not a valid move, is it? Because I will move to the beyond the top of the grid. So if I say north, okay, I have a runtime error here. I've gone out of range of an array here. So if I just hover over here, number of cells south, you can see is -1. So I was on the top row, which is given by number of cells south 0, and I've moved a row above, so the code has gone and decremented this value, and now I'm at -1, 0 in this two-dimensional array, which is a non-existent element position. So hence I have my runtime error. Okay, and let's have a look. Let's take a look at the code here. So that was in the grid class. So here I play, when the game is played, this an object is created based on this game class, and the play method is invoked or called to play the game. So here we have a loop just here, which is loops until the user enters a valid move. We'll check that in a sec. When the user has entered a valid move, then we have the various checks. Has the player ended up on the same cell as the monster? If yes, then eaten is yes. Player loses, and we have a ultimate loop here until the player's eaten, for example, or the player finds a flask, so lands on a flask here. Okay, that's monster checking position, but player, if the player lands on the flask, so player, check if the player's at the same position as the flask, then flask found is true, so player wins. Anyway, we have CheckValidMove here. So the menu items are displayed here. North, south, east, west, or M to exit the game. Get the user's direction, check if it's valid. So this is a bit of code we need to change. CheckValidMove, there's just a check here that the user enters an NS, W, E, or M. But we need to check if the user has gone off the top row or not. So let's see, how are we going to do this? Let's collapse this again, this method. So we have our game class here. And look, we have private attributes, player, cavern, all these objects here. These are objects. We can see these are instances of these classes. So player is an instance of the character class. Cavern is an instance of the grid class. Okay, so here these private attributes are accessible from within any of the code within the game class. So all of this code has access to these private attributes, and we've got a couple of constants here which are the size of the grid. Okay, so CheckValidMove, I'm receiving the direction as a parameter. So what I need to do now, let's say for example I need to check if direction equals north, for example, and now how do I find out my player position? Well, player is a private attribute, so I can access that attribute, and if I hit a dot, it'll give me all of the methods and attributes that are available to me for that object. And I can see get position. That looks pretty useful. I can get the position of the player. Let's have a look and let's have a look and see. Why not? Let's just go F12 and have a look and see what's at get position. So get position returns a cell reference. It returns the cell reference made up from this item's current position, number of cells east, number of cells south, and you can see that player was a instance of the character class. So that provided the character class provides the make move method, but as it inherits from item, it also provides these methods too: get position, set position, check if same cell. So we're using get position, returns a cell reference. So this position is a cell reference, and let's have a look and see what cell reference is. That is a structure, so it's a sort of user defined type with made up from two numbers, number of cells east and number of cells south. So the column position and the row position of the element in question. So player.getPosition, that returns a cell reference. If I put a dot just here, let's see what I have access to, and I can access the actual number of cells south part of the cell reference structure. So if I say number of cells south, and I happen to know that the top row is the 0th row, then if direction is north and the player position is top row, then I want to set valid move to move false. Okay, got too many end ifs there. So so this is going to test whether I'm about to go north, but I'm on the top row. So that would be invalid rather, and therefore that move would not take place. So I can, let's see if I put these in brackets, and let's do the other checks for going off of the end of the edge of the grid. So I'll do that and that and that. Right. Okay, so if direction is north and number of cells south is 0, then that's invalid. If I try and go south, and I'm on the bottom row, number of cells south, now I have these useful constants here that tell me NS is the bottom row. I'm not going to use 4 here, so I can change that in the future if I want to, just by changing the value of the constant. And here, get position, I want number of cells east. And I want to test if that's 0, and I decide to head west, then that should be invalid. And if I decide to head east, but I'm at the eastmost column, then that should give me a valid move of false as well. What have I done wrong there? It should be west-east, shouldn't it? Okay, and I think I should add an appropriate message here, I think, and an appropriate message to say I've moved off the grid here. Okay, so if I put in an invalid direction, based on the keystroke, like for example I just hit X or something like that, then it won't be in this list and therefore give me an invalid move. And if I put in any of these moves off the edge, then that should fail as well. And I've added a couple of prompts of messages to the user. Let's run this and see if it works. Okay, run the OOP version, start a new game. Let's go east, and now I'll try going north, see what happens. You have moved off the grid. Please enter a valid direction. Okay, so that worked, didn't it? So if I now move, I'll go west. I'm back at the beginning, and let's just check if I go west again. That's not going to work, is it? Now let's see if I could go south without hitting a trap. If I go south again, no good. I've moved off the edge. And let's see if I can get over to the other side without being eaten by the monster. And go east again, no good. Okay, so that all works. So here's the code again. Check valid move.